She was born 8 weeks early. She was only 3 pounds, 4 ounces. Little tiny preemie, was in the NICU for 4 weeks. When we knew she was going to be premature, they told us the worst case scenario. You know, she might not be able to breathe, she might be struggling with this. When they took me to see her in the NICU after she was born, the nurse leaned down, sorry, in my ear and whispered, "You are so lucky." And we truly are.
When she was born, she was 20 years old, right? She knew to be organized. She was always up for anything. She treated everybody just as if they were a peer. She never treated adults like adults, respectfully. She came out walking and talking, and we just never looked back.
She was so excited to be a big sister to Will and Emma. I mean, she made everything about them.
Someone that I was always following around, wanting to be like, and I think I even used to call her mom sometimes just because like, that just kind of represents, you know, who she was to me.
She was always someone that was so bright and fun, and I remember always wanting to copy pretty much everything that she did. We also have, what was it called? Something Pickle?
Oh.
We might have those. We had a band too.
She was always willing to try anything. Want to sign up for basketball? Sure. You know, you want to play soccer? Yeah.
There aren't many little girls that'll go out fly fishing with their dad when they're this big, you know, but we got her own little fly rod, you know, still have it.
She's actually pretty like competitive, and if you just met her, you wouldn't think that at all, because she's like very warm and very outwardly kind towards people.
One of the all-time was, you know, as a 6th grader, she won the school spelling bee.
It was between she and a very tall 8th grader who was the smartest kid in the class. And she practiced and practiced those spelling words leading up to it. It was so well-deserved and so cool to see all her hard work pay off.
I think about that conversation even today. Oh, she might not be good at math. Well, every A she brought home in math, I'm like, ha, you know, I told you, Doc, like, she's gonna be fine. Everything
Right.
that she does amazes you.
She broke every barrier they gave us. And that's what we just always say, like, she was meant to be here and she was coming whether we were ready or not.
Greg was a really happy baby. He was so entertained by his siblings and just the typical, you know, fourth in the family.
Nice kid. He grew up well. He watched all the other kids, what they were doing.
He was just a little ham. Like, he loved to just make jokes, make people laugh. He was just this little cherub with these like huge cheeks, these like luscious curls, huge smile.
I heard he was colicky. So.
Yeah, he did cry quite a bit.
That's what I know about Greg.
If you factor out the crying, he was a great little brother to have around.
But I always wanted a brother. And the special event was Gregory coming along so John would have a brother growing up.
You know, after having 2 sisters, I was just excited to have a little brother, you know. We kind of grew up playing soccer in the backyard, a lot of memories of watching them play and playing together. I like to think that Greg is not as technically good than me, but, you know, he was always strong, he was fast.
I have so many favorite memories of Greg, it's hard to pick. The first one that comes to mind is when we were on our RV trip. We were like at some river and he called it Gega Spa. He would take like mud and like rub it on your arms, like make a mud face mask. He took like these stones, he was like massaging you. And it was just like so funny and creative and goofy. Like, that's just Greg. Like, he makes anything, literally like sitting on the side of a creek, a fun time.
Took him to his first concert when he was 10 years old, and it was a surprise. It was down at River Bend. We had lawn seats. He couldn't really see very well, but we met, they were probably high school football players, but they lifted him up and held him so he could see and just made friends with everybody around us. And it was just a really fun, memorable night.
Well, there's so many, but the train trip that we did recently, last fall, which he really enjoyed since he'd seen the train movies and always wanted to do that with his dad, so that was a special bonding time for both of us.
He worries so much about the people in his life and wanting to make them happy.
It was his spring break during our house project, and instead of him hanging out on a beach, you know, drinking beer, reading books, having fun. He was in the trenches at our dirty house, finishing the floor and putting in insulation with us. That night, we probably smashed some conies and played some video games. And it meant so much to me that he would give a piece of his time and having fun, you know, for us and helping us out in the time we needed it.
In a hard place.
Yeah.
He's always been very thoughtful and sweet and kind, but I think his greatest trait is his thoughtfulness.
He just tries so hard. He's constantly improving, doing such a great job, making such strong relationships with his students. It is a really hard profession, and the fact that Greg chose to teach middle schoolers, teach theology is, in my eyes, so amazing, and it's something that I'm really proud of that Greg has chosen to do.
You had Caroline, you had Greg, and you had Meg.
He and Meg went to a homecoming dance together as friends, and I think that's the first time I met him. He was just so sweet, and his smile, you know, he just has such a great smile. I was just like, this is just a nice kid. I just kind of noticed him start to look at her a little differently and kind of smile at you know, whenever she'd talk. One day I said, do you and Greg like each other? And she said, no, Mom, we're just friends, but if we did, I'd be the luckiest girl in the world because he's amazing. And I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Leading up to his sister Ashley's wedding, was very distracted. And that wasn't like him.
Greg is like the most family-oriented person there is, and he missed my night before, or our night before wedding event to go to a high school turnabout with Meg. Like, looking back, I'm like, I should have been really mad about that. Greg is like, you know, I'm so close with him. He should have been there. So that's how I knew, all right, she must be something special. She must be worth it.
So then they started spending more time together, and one day they had gone somewhere in the evening and she came home. And I was in my room and she shut the door and she said, Mom, I think I like Greg. And I was like, yay, you are the luckiest girl in the world then.
Greg was a smitten kitten. He had met this girl that he was so excited about, so pumped to spend time with her. I was like, gosh, who is this girl? I need to meet her.
Well, I actually met Greg a while back, like before, like when we were in grade school and he went to Incarnation. I didn't know he was gonna marry my sister one day, that's for sure.
She was very vivacious. I thought she was very confident and smart. Just had a real light to her, a brightness.
She is, like, hands down one of the funniest people I've ever met. She's like listening, picking up on things, referencing it, and making jokes about it, and keeping things hilarious.
There was always the effort from Greg to get to know us and spend time with us, whether it was dance competitions where I was little, the last year at my high school graduation, just Greg being there for all of us and throughout all those events.
He's not there because Meg's making him. He's gone to stuff when Meg wasn't even there. I mean, he showed up here after I tore my ACL and was in like a hospital bed. He genuinely cares about people and is a big reason why I think Meg took it so serious early on.
When he went away to school, right, not everybody wants to go back to their high school for the dances that they go to. So when you're willing to do that, and then, you know, when she went away to South Carolina, they continued to talk. I think we always, you know, knew once they got into college that it was gonna be probably a little bit longer term than that.
Very early on in their relationship, obviously they had tough decisions to make, you know, going long distance, Meg at South Carolina, Greg at UD. I mean, that takes grit. Like, it's even harder than it sounds. Like, I tried to do that. I got dumped after like 3 months of doing that. Like, it didn't look
that in.
Greg was asking for advice on like long distance relationships. And he was asking how we got through it. And of course I gave him ideas on like, you know, write down maybe topics to talk about on the phone or like things in your day so you don't forget them. And then of course Greg takes it to like 11 and he's having like one-on-one dinners with Meg,
yeah, I didn't
themed
get
dinners
those.
over, you
I
know,
didn't
Skype
get FaceTime dates in Whole Foods.
When two people make a concerted effort, you know, over a long period of time to stay together and stay engaged and visit each other and make time for each other, you know, that's when you know that it's serious. They obviously made it work really well by continuously making time for each other and making sure that they're keeping that relationship growing.
I just remember Greg having like a lot of grand gestures for Meg over the years, like when they had to come back home from Italy from their study abroad, and he did like a Italy tour for Meg's birthday where they went to different people's houses and had different courses. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh my gosh, Greg is setting such a high bar for himself. When he proposes to Meg someday, he's gonna have to do something wild. And he did. He pulled it off, I think.
They just balance each other and complement each other so well. One thing I always say about Meg is she always leaves people better than when she found them. And I feel like Greg's the same way.
There's no way you can say that they're not two of the most optimistic people you'll ever meet. You know, it would be a very hard thing to have both of them have a bad day.
They're both so supportive of each other. I know he showed up to Meg's work for her birthday and brought her lunch, and Meg was able to help him decorate his classroom.
Meg is intelligent, she's caring, she's a good listener, and she's a little bit more organized than Gregory is.
Meg brings the balance. She brings the structure. She brings
She
the
can
discipline.
focus Greg.
She can focus Greg.
She can make sure he shows up to events on time.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Meg is like always ready to do something fun. Like she's always like along for the ride, and Greg certainly likes to do a lot of different things. Like for Christmas, he got her this glass blowing class, and they went to that. The other weekend, they were doing like a silent disco in Knoxville.
Just saw a video the other week of Greg going over and them doing a night in France. And I think Meg and Greg love to do unique experiences together and try new things together. When they commit to an activity, they go all in, and I think that they have a lot of fun together.
They are so committed to each other. They support each other. They help each other grow. They've been through so much of life together, from high school to college to after college. Meg's just committed to our family as well, and that's, I think, really important to Greg, is that Meg's become such a part of our family. Heck, she was a bridesmaid in our wedding. She's like a little sister to me, which I've never had a little sister, so that's really fun.
From the first time that she came with us to Amelia Island, could see how important her faith is to her as well. And just knowing my son leads in life with his faith.
They use that in good times and in bad. So if they ever have a tough time, or maybe they were struggling with the distance, I feel like that's something that they both lean on heavily, and it gets them through it together.
Any words of wisdom for Meg and Greg?
I mean, it's hard for me to even feel like I have a right to tell them that, just because like they've just done amazing.
Just a
They're up
youngin'.
here.
Yeah, they set the standard all the way up here. One of my friends even said, like, if Meg and Greg don't get married, love isn't real. Like,
always respect each other, no matter what. You might not always agree with one another. Things are gonna be hard. Things are gonna be amazing. But as long as you know this is the person I'm doing life with, that is a huge component.
Say focus on the big stuff, like the little stuff, you know, you'll get through, right? Don't let the little stuff become big stuff, and you know, great things will happen.
Treat one another as you want to be treated, and listen. You know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much.
Patience with each other, and it's going to be a long road with ups and downs, but it's all worth it in the end.
Marriage is, you know, still work, like, you know, after the big day, you know. But it's fun work. It's literally like
The best work.
Yeah, it's the best work.
Maybe turn notifications on your phone. It can be hard to get in touch with Greg, and you know, if an emergency were to happen or something, it's good to be reachable.
When you get married, you have a partner who's gonna be there for you in those harder times where you might be struggling, and what a better partner. Meg's gonna be amazing as Greg's lifelong partner. They're just gonna do so well together. I'm excited for them to get married.
Cheers to Meg and Greg forever.
Cheers. We love you guys.
To a long, happy life full of lots of love.
Congrats, Meg and Greg, we love you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
wish you the
We wish
best.
you the best.
Cheers to Megan Geek.